So yeah, taking it from grassroots
Yeah.
to tour, you still do that, so you get the breadth of experience.
Yeah.
What sort of challenges are you facing with going forward and coaching, say, as you are at the moment with young groups or elites, or
Challenges in what sense?
things that you're just constantly sort of maybe learning from or trying to.
I think with the type of work I do at the moment, my biggest challenge is that I am working through coaches, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense. So I'm not actually doing that much work directly with players themselves now. So I suppose my biggest challenge is I have to establish a relationship with a coach who then has to establish or is establishing or developing the relationship with the player. So I need
Right.
to kind of funnel in the best way I can to help that coach, to help that player. So
Yeah.
across the board, I would say that's my biggest challenge is to know how to work most effectively with the coach to make sure the player is still at the heart of it.
Yeah.
Because I've always had, well, I've always had, definitely since 2001, I've had a player or person-centered philosophy.
Yeah.
So that's morally, I suppose that's my biggest challenge is if I'm working with a coach who's working with a player, who's at the center of that.
Yeah.
You
Where did that person-centered strategy come from? That's really interesting.
Well, I can tell you exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I read a book in 2001 when I was on holiday, Steve Covey's Habits
Oh,
of
yeah.
Highly Effective
Seven
People.
Habits, yeah.
And I'm a great believer in whatever, it's not what book you read, it's the time of your life or the time in your headspace that you're in when you read a book that's the most important thing. And for whatever reason,
So like the book sort of comes to you at
yeah,
that moment.
yeah. Well, I
and
think that it was funny.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast the other week, and there was a guy saying he had this quote where he said something like, "God forbid anyone experiences uber fame before their frontal lobes have fully developed." And I was like, one of these ones where I was like pulling the car over, going, "What did he just say?" And I'm like rewinding it, and
Yeah.
and then he goes into the detail about it. You know, that frontal lobe is where you have all that emotional control, your
Yeah.
decision making.
You're processing.
Yeah, and he said if you experience super fame before that, it can go to your head, literally.
Yeah.
And I've always had this theory, and it might lead us to that the kind of model thing.
Yeah.
I've always had this theory that until you're like your late 20s, you don't really know yourself. And when he said it, I was like, oh man. So this holiday, when I was 28 that year, I read this book and I thought this makes perfect sense to me. And one of the tips was essentially write down your philosophy and start to build it and write down what your values are. The number one I could never get away from was it's all about the person, not the player, the person. So I call it. It was called the XIM coaching philosophy, and I put the character. I called it a character. I found that an easier word for me personally. The character at the center, the essence.
The character being the player.
Yeah, the person. Yeah, almost the character is the essence of the person.
Okay, got
so their values, their beliefs, their attitudes, all that stuff.
Their philosophy.
Their moral compass. Where ethically, where do they stand? Morally, where do they stand? What do they believe in? What are the real reasons they were doing this thing? Is it for intrinsic or extrinsic? Is it ego controlled or fueled?
Their core motivations.
And that was always what's most interested me the most as a coach. Before I did formal coach education back in start 93 it was always that side of the game that fascinated me. It was like, what makes him tick? What makes, why are they like that? Why is it under pressure they either fold or accept or stay the same? So that was always what fascinated me most about coaching someone was getting into that and that. And then all the other stuff I think is quite tangible. The techniques are, for me, this is a difficult one for me to articulate because a lot of coaches, when they hear me speak like this, they perceive it that I mean technique isn't important.
No.
It's massively important because it's the thing you do to hit the ball or to move or whatever, or to think strategically, etc. But
if you do it with the person right, if you have them worked out and them in the frame at the core of it all.
Yeah, definitely. And it's So that was 2001. I put that down on paper, surrounded it with the 4 performance factors, and then had this environments around that. So it had this kind of bullseye look to it. And the environments, but this is what was interesting to me, was I put all the environments down. So it was the tennis environment, other sporting environments, school, the parenting,
family,
the social, like the peer
friends,
pressure, So I had all these things around, and then I'm going, well, what can I directly influence? What can I control the controllables and all that. So I can control the tennis environment.
You meaning the direct environment, sort of the coach, the athlete,
that's it.
The trainers.
I can influence the parents to maybe have healthy around the dinner table type conversations or back and forth in the car. I could influence the school with the better players who were taking them out of the school. So I could go and work with the kind of rectors or the headmasters and mistresses and educate them on why they needed to come out and what they were doing and the skills that this would bring back into the classroom and all that sort of stuff. The peers, I can't really do anything about that. They're going to socialize with who they're going to socialize. So it was all this type of stuff. Where do I place my focus? And that really was the catalyst for all that 6-7 years of the work where Judy was bringing in unbelievable people, was in a way overwhelming me, because I was like, what do I believe in? So 2001, sat down and put it on paper, and that was the moment it started to form and create models.
And that was triggered off that one moment where you thought, that triggered for you, right? I need to get this down, I need to think about the person at the core, I need to work out their values, and it just all became...
I couldn't get over it. I couldn't get away from, it wasn't about rankings, it wasn't about what level of status of tournament they played. It was nothing about that. It was all about, I just want...
the process.
The process, and also that I'm motivated by, let's say, for example, last year at a conference, someone asks me, when you think back, what are your proudest moments? And again, instinctively, I said, getting wedding invitations from players that I've coached since they were like 6 years old. So I've got a wedding in October from a girl that I coached from 4 years old. She's 30 now. And that means, and it sounds really cheesy and romantic, but it's just the way.
But does that confirm to you that your philosophy is working? So like, put that person at the center, the person, who are they, what are their values, what's their,
just like,
what makes them tick?
It would be like, wherever your tennis takes you, I just want to be, to know that you're a phone call away or an email away, or we text or we WhatsApp with each other just to keep up to date. That means more to me than what level you get to, because that, if you do the process right, they'll get to the level they'll get to, barring bad injury or bad fortune. But it's not going to be that. Got no interest in this whole thing of, they were top 100 in the world. So they're not even in my memory now. It's just they're gone and they're bitter. They're not even playing tennis anymore. They've got no fond memories,